I always have the impression of being one with my car. It's not like a person or a human being, but it's like these animals. In reality, it's frightening.
Hello, I am Alain Prost.
Prost is millimetre perfect, as he always is, the thinking man's Grand Prix driver.
Alain Prost at the present time, in my opinion, is the finest Grand Prix driver in the world.
A full, brilliant championship for the Frenchman.
The most successful Grand Prix driver of all time.
Prost is known as the quote-unquote professor.
The image that everyone has of yourself is of the thinker, of the great sort of cerebral driver, the professor. And
Prost certainly made his mark in the sport
as the greatest Formula One driver of the 1980s.
And I think if Prost wants to be called the sole champion, 3 times world champion, come back in a sportive way, maybe win another championship, he should be sportive. The way he's doing, he's behaving like a coward.
It's also a career that seems to have been dogged by controversy, not always of your own making, and also dominated by the rivalry with Ayrton Senna.
He wanted to show the people that he was much stronger, much better, and that was his weakness.
What kind of a man is Alain Prost professionally? He's completely dedicated.
Working for me is not a problem.
Prost, of course, is an anagram of sport. Was he destined to become a champion?
My life is divided into 2, before Formula One and after Formula One.
Before racing, I was a football player. And I only went into go-kart when I had a knee problem and then a wrist problem when I was playing football.
I was on vacation with my parents, and it was the first time that I tried go-karting. I was 14 years old, I had one arm in plaster, and I raced a little club race, which I win with one hand. It began that very day. I said, this is fantastic, I must try to keep on go-karting, but without any fun, no money. My parents completely against it. There were already a few problems. And then after 2 or 3 years, I saved for over 2-3 years, you know. I tried to pick up some cash and I bought myself a second-hand go-kart. Naturally, against the advice of my parents again.
Elle a basculé complètement, mais j'avais tellement envie d'essayer en tout cas, compte tenu que j'étais vraiment performant en karting. Donc j'ai établi à ce moment-là un plan de travail.
And that plan of action became the optimal career.
His was a conventional route into the sport, winning French and European kart championships.
After winning his first international title in junior karting in 1972, he won the ELF scholarship at the end of 1975. Prost thoroughly exploited the graduation program that had been established in France in the 70s.
All the team managers, all the big sponsors, they were looking at the Formula 3 race. And I had contact with, big contact with Teddy Mayer. But then I had the offer from Teddy Mayer, do you want to race in Watkins Glen? That was 1 week later.
Straight out of the blue.
Yeah. And funny thing, I said no. I don't know the track, I don't know the cars, I had no time to prepare anything, and I think it's not nice. And I said, okay, fair enough, and we contact you. But then I had to wait three weeks before I had any contact. And I tell you, I said, for these 3 weeks, I think I did a mistake. So I was sure that I was finished because I had no other program. So I was almost ready to go back to work with my father and doing something different. And then they contact me, and then we had the first test in Paul Ricard 2 months later.
In his first Grand Prix, Alain Prost was 13th on the grid.
And scored his first World Championship point in his first Grand Prix, Argentina in 1980, driving a McLaren Ford.
You know, when you got first time in car, in Formula One car, coming from Formula 3, it's like a big one, you know. I said, I'm going to be able to drive this kind of car, you know, with so much power.
People hark back to those 80s and at the 80s and say, you know, it was a halcyon era, a brilliant era of Formula One. Would you agree with that?
Yes, for sure.
McLaren's new recruit Alain Prost had broken a bone in his wrist at Kyalami.
And when the rear axle failed in practice for the South African Grand Prix, Prost fractured his wrist. He was learning painful lessons.
You know, before I never hurt myself in motor racing.
Motor racing is an extremely dangerous sport. It always has been. It always will be.
The worst accident occurred when Regazzoni's brakes failed at the end of the main straight. He crashed heavily and was seriously injured.
The summer was then marked by a tragic event, the death of Patrick Depailler.
Hopes were high for a Belgian Grand Prix free from acrimony and with clean, close racing. But
What's wrong with that?
Le célèbre pilote québécois Gilles Villeneuve est mort à l'âge de 30 ans.
Crash at the back, and this is the sort of thing that unfortunately happens all too often now. Paletti has hit the back of Pironi's Ferrari very hard, and the car's on fire. The car has burst into flames. This is absolutely appalling. Riccardo Paletti has died after that accident on the start line.
A tough season became tragic when Elio De Angelis crashed and died. Everyone in the Grand Prix circus knows that a racing driver chooses his life on the understanding that death might choose him, but it still hurts when it happens.
Having seen people, suffering and dying, your friends, you cannot understand a lot of things of what happened. You go and you change yourself in your room, and then you go and then you don't know who's going to take your bags if you have an accident. I very often thought about that in my career. As soon as you have a physical pain, it makes you change completely.
They were brave men all, but only on the understanding that when the day came they had to race, no matter what.
And we had a lot of fun, and we had a lot of risk, a lot of accident. And as I really thought a lot that if we had so much fun, it's also because it was so dangerous, and we were almost like family.
Were you driven by this self-doubt as well?
50%. And the strange things for me, the other 50%, it's the pleasure of doing by myself, getting the car better or finding new ideas.
Some drivers seem to be very romantic and take a lot of chance. He gives the impression of being classical, cool.
Right away, he immediately proved to have an exceptional talent at setting up a car.
I also learned to be a little bit outside the limit.
I've seen good friends and very close guys being killed or being very badly injured. So from the beginning, I really took care about the safety. That was also a sort of philosophy, that trying to get less risk possible.
Because of his natural talent, he doesn't have to force it. And this gives him the capability of operating within himself. And therefore, he is never stretched.
And then you do one lap, a bit slow, second lap, a little bit quick. And the third lap, you realize that I'm going to do it. I feel well, And that's the first thing I remember. I was sure after 3 laps that I would be very good, very, very fast.
Out goes the checkered flag, and Alain Prost has won his first Grand Prix, the French Grand Prix.
Je crois qu'il y a quand même une bonne partie de dons au départ. Et puis après, c'est beaucoup de travail, du travail de recherche. Pas simplement sur le plan du pilotage, je pense que le pilotage s'affine.
So Prost and Renault flourished together, but it was a journey that was riddled with pitfalls.
Alain Prost coming through to win his 4th Grand Prix and very likely to ensure the World Championship for himself, provided the car is as reliable as it has been in the next races.
You're world champion, I think.
Now, 83. Talking about those first 3 years with Renault.
83, it's another decision of the management, but it was, we had 2 things. We had the turbo, so we had exactly the same problem than 82.
Prost's race must be run, and that's sickening for him and his championship hopes. And here comes Piquet. Over the line goes the world champion of 1983, Nelson Piquet.
But he was pipped to the post the first time he looked likely to take the title by Piquet in what are sometimes thought of as slightly dubious circumstances.
The most important is not only losing the race and maybe losing the championship, because that was part also of the history, but it's the reaction of the people inside the team and many outside, especially on the public. I have decided to move from France at this period because for a few months I had 2 cars burned in my parking. I had very strange messages. Every week we have a race where you are going to crash, you're going to do that. I could not believe, and I never understood why exactly it was like this.
The Prost-Renault partnership didn't survive this frustrating setback. The divorce was unpleasant and sad. The driver bitterly and publicly blamed his team, which in turn violently rejected his allegations.
Ain't nothing but trouble.
Ron Dennis, the hard-headed team patron of McLaren, had long wanted Prost to drive for him.
And then, so you leave Renault at the end of 83. You then go to McLaren.
Prost blossomed in McLaren's super-professional environment, where he found the kind of perfection that he craved.
From the moment you turned up at a racetrack, your focus was on Sunday more than Saturday.
Alain Prost, the professor.
They called me the professor because at one race, I think it was 82 or 83, where I have decided to put the hard tire on the left and soft tire on the right. And he said, oh, no, it's not going to work, you can't do that. I said, let me do. Then I won the race, and that's where they called me the first time the professor.
How frustrated were you at this point in your career? Because you were the fastest driver in Formula One, and yet for whatever reason, you couldn't get that championship.
I remember when I came back in the hotel, I said, am I going to win one championship one day? I was driving at 100%. And then when I arrived with Nicky was slower than me. There's no doubt about it. But at the end, he was world champion. For any kind of reason, but sometimes he was starting 8, 9, 10. I was on first row, you know. But he was still able in the rest to be competitive. And I really changed my philosophy a little bit. I learned a lot with Nicky, and for sure in '85, I started to be a little bit more cautious.
Prost succeeded in overcoming the first difficult stage of his career and then went from success to success.
A typically calm, relaxed and professional drive from Alain Prost, who has never yet won the World Championship.
Here is the winner, Alain Prost, in the Marlboro McLaren with the PAG engine for the second year in succession, wins the Monaco Grand Prix.
So Alain Prost scores another Grand Prix win to put himself conclusively at the head of the table.
In 2 consecutive seasons, Prost had seen the title snatched away in the last race. That wasn't going to happen in 1985.
He reached his ultimate goal on October the 6th, 1985, after the European Grand Prix at Brands Hatch.
And just as Niki Lauda won the championship for Marlboro McLaren in 1984, so now does Alain Prost do so.
There was no element of luck. It had been won by the best driver at the time, in the best car in the field.
La chance existe une fois que l'homme et la machine ont fait leur travail. Mais vous ne gagnez jamais une course grâce à la chance.
Then in 1986 came the successful defence.
Prost crossed the line first, yet another display of silk line driving.
He was at the peak of his sport.
Alain Prost at the present time, in my opinion, is the finest Grand Prix driver in the world, probably the finest race driver in the world.
He wins the Australian Grand Prix. He wins the World Championship of 1986.
That is my best season ever.
It seems that nothing can stop this incredible little Frenchman.
There's the checkered flag for Alain Prost.
This is to be Alain Prost's 26th victory of a magnificent career.
I'm very happy that it's him that's taking it and not someone who I would not have been proud to have it.
This is a record.
Prost's historic 28th victory was in the bag.
Alain Prost wins his 28th Grand Prix. He knows it, knowing that he is now the greatest Grand Prix driver of all time.
Unconfined joy in the McLaren pit.
McLaren at the time was my family.
At Monza came confirmation of Honda's plans to stay with Lotus, to go to McLaren. So Alain Prost, by staying put, would get a new engine and a new teammate.
McLaren wanted the reigning world champion Nelson Piquet, but Prost also had a strong voice in the decision, and his surprising proposal helped launch one of the most dramatic eras in the sport.
I said, why Nelson? If you want to make a strong team, take the best, take Ayrton. When you talk today, even today, about Senna, you speak about Prost, and speak about Prost, you talk about Senna.
They have, of course, in Alain Prost, one of the best, if not the best driver in Formula One. To work together with a twice world champion, so successful driver, it's going to be a big challenge.
I have 3 different periods in a way. There was one period that I did not know. It was the period when Ayrton was young. I was still racing, and I was like an idol.
We will have good fun from now on.
Maybe we fight outside the car.
One of their drivers was surely going to win the title. But which one? And what was the best way to handle and manage the two most ambitious, motivated drivers on the grid?
Prost takes the checkered flag.
To win the Mexican Grand Prix of 1988, second is teammate Ayrton Senna.
Had it been an easy victory for him?
No, it's never easy, and to win against Ayrton, it's quite difficult.
For sure, we knew it was going to be fireworks. You can manage them for a while, but after a while, it was, you have a time bomb.
When we had big explosions, they were big.
He comes fast out of the final corner. He gets close up into the slipstream of Senna. He goes alongside. Senna tries to shut the door, and the two cars very nearly collide.
It was very close, and let's say it was on the limit. It was really a difficult period, tough period, very intense period.
Senna would take the title, and along the way, Prost would learn so much about the single-minded approach of the Brazilian.
He wanted to show the people that he was much stronger, much better.
It's over. It's been a long season, I think, for me and for Alain. It's been amazing fighting between us.
Alain, well, you must be disappointed.
I'm not disappointed by the championship. Mr. Kawamoto, president of Honda, came to Switzerland and we had a dinner. I had a very strange discussion because I said, you know, I feel that Honda is going in favor of Ayrton. And he said to me, yes, I know. On the human side, it was very, very difficult for me because Ayrton was supported, 99% by the media, by the people. I remember very well once I've seen the engines coming, you know, and was written on the engine special for Ayrton, you know, things like this. What does that mean? Is the engine better, or maybe it's exactly the same, or I don't know. But you don't want to see that.
In 1989, the rivalry became raw and public.
And 89 was absolutely a disaster.
Second on the grid, Alain Prost, the World Championship leader. Senna's teammate, but not his friend.
He had this belief that he had a God-given right to win.
Green, they're away for 55 laps, and Alain Prost made by far the best start that time.
Only for Senna to dive past into the left-hander. This was the real start of the enmity between the two McLaren drivers, for Prost said it violated an agreement made between them.
He said, it's not me, it's Alain who overtook me. There's 700 million of people, you know, they can watch the thing, and then it took, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes before he has accepted that, and he started to cry. My mistake, I went to a French journalist, a friend of mine. He had heard a few things. I told him the story, but I said, please, don't tell anything. And he has written that in the newspaper. And Ayrton from this day was so upset that he saw somebody told him that he was in the newspaper, that he never wanted to talk anymore.
And so, in the worst of atmospheres, the 1989 season continued.
For Prost, it was his first win of 1989. There is the checkered flag for Alain Prost. Up to the checkered flag, a popular win for Alain Prost. And so, Alain Prost scored his third win of the year. Nothing was going to stop Prost.
And by the time he won the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, with Senna crashing out to the delight of the Tifosi, Prost had already announced he was no longer committed to McLaren and would be a Ferrari driver in 1990.
Obviously, when I stopped, then the relation became very difficult. I remember Monza.
And in an extraordinary gesture on the rostrum, he gave away his winner's trophy to the crowd.
At Suzuka, the penultimate race of the season, Senna had to win to keep his hopes alive. Prost, 16 points ahead, said he would not be opening the door if his teammate came to overtake.
Comes up to any of them. This is the opportunity that Senna's looking for, and he's going through. Out! Oh my goodness, this is fantastic! And that means to say that Prost has won the World Championship. Alain Prost, World Champion of 1989.
Senna was embroiled in arguments and protests and conspiracy theories. While all that was going on, Prost left for Ferrari as world champion.
It's given him a reputation of being a moaner and groaner, and that annoys him.
And how did you deal with that personally? That this unfair hatred that came towards you, even though you were in the right and you never did anything wrong?
How can you handle that, you know? So in fact, you have to, you know, to go back to the people that you love and they love you, and you have to... Et plutôt que d'exploser, d'éclater, de dire voilà, j'en ai ras-le-bol, j'arrête, ben moi je me complais dans mon petit univers et puis voilà, je continue à faire ce qui me plaît, c'est-à-dire conduire ma voiture, c'est tout.
The theme of the 1990 season was still Prost versus Senna. 6 race wins went to Senna, 5 to Prost. Senna, however, had the edge in the title race, and it was all heading to another showdown at Suzuka. Now, a non-finish for Prost would make Senna champion, and after the events of the previous season, the Brazilian was determined to finish it in ruthless fashion.
Ayrton has a small problem. He thinks that he can't kill himself because he believes in God and things like this, and I think that's very dangerous.
Green is clear, the lights go, and Senna sprints away, but Alain Prost takes the lead. It's happened. Alain Prost has taken the advantage. Senna is trying to go through on the inside, and it's happened immediately. This is amazing. Senna goes off at the first corner, but what has happened to Prost? He has gone off too. Well, that is amazing, but I fear absolutely predictable.
I told myself, today is no way. Today has to be my way.
To be very honest, you know, I was absolutely sure that I'm going to win the race or an accident like this. The problem with Ayrton, he can't accept that he can't accept not to win, and he can't accept that somebody resists by an overtaking maneuver.
Unlike the previous year, where blame was pointed at both drivers, the condemnation of Senna's tactic was virtually unanimous. He'd won the title with a reckless and potentially lethal move.
An eye for an eye. Not very Christian for a man who swears by his faith, but there must be a moral there somewhere.
He had this look on his face. You could say resignation, you could say lots of things, but whatever it was, when ultimately I came into contact, I just said, I'm disappointed.
1991, the Ferrari lost its competitive edge, and for the first time in 10 years, Prost failed to win a race.
We're talking about my character, my mentality, and I'm much closer to the pragmatism of the Anglo-Saxon people, yeah.
His critical observations led to his departure from the team.
A sad way to finish a relationship between two of the sport's big names, though it had never been comfortable.
I think everyone knows Prost by now. He is always complaining either by the car or the tires or the team or the mechanics or the fuel or the other drivers or the circuit. It's always somebody else's blame. It's never his fault.
But I think it's also not possible to handle with him, you know, so what can I do? I mean, I stop racing immediately at the end of the year, or I try to do my job and I don't think about him, you know. And
But in '93, he was back with the most dominant car on the grid, the Williams FW15.
Ayrton, it was announced by Williams that Alain Prost had signed for them today.
It's impossible to accept somebody to come to a team February in the year with a signed contract, Vito, myself and himself too. And I think if Prost wants to be called the sole champion, 3 times world champion, come back in a sportive way, maybe win another championship, he should be sportive. The way he's doing, he's behaving like a coward.
You know, keep hearing all the time, we have a quickest car. Ayrton, and the poor guy, he has very little car. And
Alain Prost strolled back into the Formula One fray, now taking over as new Williams team leader in place of Nigel Mansell. Alain quickly proved that it wouldn't take him long to get back in the groove.
It seems to me 1993 was the first time in your career in which you'd gone into the season expecting and expected to dominate.
Alain Prost, back where he belongs, at the top of Grand Prix racing. Back up to the start-finish line, and Prost wins. Alain Prost wins the Spanish Grand Prix. Alain Prost wins in Canada. Delight there for Alain Prost. Alain Prost wins the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, sees the checkered flag, wins the German Grand Prix after an absolutely immaculate drive.
Prost would have a virtually unchallenged run to the title, But off the track, there was one big problem. Frank Williams wanted to partner Prost with a new teammate for 1994, Ayrton Senna.
Came to my house and trying to explain that he had pressure from Renault, that he wanted to have Ayrton. He said, please, you know, we have a contract. So it's going on like this, and I felt more and more and more pressure. And then in August, they called me and said, okay, we make the deal. Okay, no problem. I was happy. I was not very happy, but I was happy because at least we cut the thing.
The final European round of the championship was dominated by Alain Prost's decision to retire at the end of the season, opening the way for Ayrton Senna to leave McLaren and join Williams for 94.
Alain Prost is second and the world champion of 1993. A full, brilliant championship for the Frenchman.
For sure delighted about the championship, especially now I'm going to go to Japan and Australia. A little bit more relaxed.
2 races remained for Prost to achieve his other ambition. Some kind of public reconciliation with Ayrton Senna.
And then the period where I retired. And from the moment where I come to the podium with him, the whole thing changed completely.
Perhaps the end of an era, these two won 92 Grand Prix between them.
Past differences were forgotten as Senna invited his teammates past and future to join him on top of the world.
He called me 2 days later and not just keep going like this and telling me some personal, very, very personal stories that I would never tell to anybody. I discovered another person and I understood exactly what he was, and then I understood that I was really a sort of a model, and more than a model, a motivation. He told me very often, Alain, I'm not motivated to race against these guys. You know, please come back.
A special hello to our dear friend Alain. We all miss you, Alain.
Do you fear mortality?
Don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I do too. Very much.
The sport of Formula One tonight is in deep mourning. We've lost, arguably, the greatest talent of his generation. After a high-speed crash at Tamburello, Ayrton Senna is dead.
Hi, I'm John Bizignano, and I'm in New York City for the opening of the film Senna. Everyone will enjoy the movie Senna.
There's a lot of things that I wanted to say, and that is why I did not like the Senna film. Honestly, I need to repeat that today because it did not show at all what was the real story behind that, and especially in the last 6 months. And it is a regret of my life that we could not show exactly what was the relation.
No, back to you.
Alain Prost, the end of a glorious career.
There's no doubt that no other champion in the whole history of motorsport has better conducted his races and his career.
As a driver, I would say he was one of the best, and obviously his 4 championships shows that.
The Professor certainly deserves his nickname.
Well, congratulations on your 4th World Championship and so many Grand Prix, a great contribution to motorsport. Happy retirement, and maybe we can play more golf.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jackie.
Alain was very quiet, very mild-mannered, straightforward, unassuming, 4-time world champion.
There was calculation in his approach, but there was also pride and passion. He could be celebrating more World Championship titles, but it would all be at the expense of the part he played in a golden era for Formula One.
At the end of the day, I feel much more, the story was better, was stronger.
I know there's nothing else that can replace Formula One in my life in the future. Nothing. In no way you can have substitute. But when you know that, you are not disappointed.
I cannot regret anything. There's nothing. The only thing I can regret is having seen so many accidents of friends, and I'm so happy that I never hurt myself. I feel very good, and you know, it is part of the. I would, if I had to do it again, I would do exactly the same.